Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. My guest this week is Stephanie Tucker. Steph is the department's Furbearer biologist. We're going to talk about the mountain lion season, which closed recently. Actually, it's still open in parts of North Dakota.
That's correct. There's two zones in North Dakota, two hunting zones. One is strictly the Badlands and the Missouri River breaks, and that is where we have our breeding population of mountain lions. And so we run that hunting season out there based on a quota. So we're trying to limit harvest through the quota to protect our breeding population. The rest of the state outside of the Badlands is Zone 2, and we have a more liberal hunting season out there because mountain lions that are found in eastern North Dakota or central North Dakota have essentially already removed themselves from the breeding population. They're no longer contributing, and so we allow a little more liberal take there. But the chance of a mountain lion turning up in eastern North Dakota is much slimmer than out in western North Dakota.
It does happen occasionally.
Occasionally, but every 1 to 2 years a mountain lion is taken in Zone 2.
So how did the season go in your estimation?
It went slow, but I think that was anticipated, at least from my perspective. We hadn't met the hunting season quota the 2 previous years prior to this year, and we did not meet that this year either. And it just, everything progressed a little bit slower, including the late season. The late season is when we allow hunters to use hounds to pursue mountain lions. And that starts after deer gun season, deer rifle season closes, that we allow mountain lion hunters to use hounds. And we didn't have great snow tracking conditions starting out, but even then things progressed a little bit slower. But they wrapped up last week with 7 taken in the late season for the mountain lion hunting season.
You, more than anyone in the state, have a better handle on the populations of mountain lions in the Badlands, in the prime habitat like you talked about before. Are the numbers keeping up? Are they stabilized?
Well, our trend data is definitely showing a decline in the population the last 3 years. And I don't expect that decline to have been really slowed at all this year going into the hunting season as well. I haven't started looking at the data from this season yet to really tell how the population is going to react to the hunting season. But that also coincides with some research we've been doing on mountain lions. Starting in 2011, we began tagging mountain lions in western North Dakota. And that research also showed that we have pretty high mortality rates of mountain lions in western North Dakota in our breeding population. And that coincides with what we're seeing with our trend data.
Now, by saying that the population is going down, any reason why?
Well, our research is showing that the number one cause of mortality is the hunting season. Okay, so there's a lot going on there with our season quotas, and we have a very small, narrowly restricted population, especially compared to just about every other state. Not many states have populations as small as we do. And so we have to be pretty conservative in our harvest, and we're still tweaking that and trying to find out, what kind of impact our harvest is having. And right now it's showing we're still harvesting kind of on the high end for the mountain lion population there in the Badlands.
The study that you and your graduate students do is absolutely fascinating. Tell me about it.
Yeah, we just wrapped up the first 3-year phase of research. We had a master's degree student, Dave Wilkins, who just graduated this past August, and he was looking at, among other things, food habits of mountain lions in the Badlands, to see what they're eating and how often they're making kills. He also looked at survival of radio-collared mountain lions and other tagged mountain lions like mountain lion kittens. So when we had a radio-collared female, for instance, a couple times that gave birth to a litter while we were tracking her, and we would go in and tag those kittens. And then he also just kind of looked at the population health. Now we're starting a second phase of research just this winter here. We got a new graduate student, Randy Johnson. Both Dave and Randy are students through South Dakota State University. The principal investigator down there is Dr. Jonathan Jenks that we're working with. And the objectives for the second phase are just a little bit different. We're going to continue to mark and radio-collar mountain lions and look at survival, see what kind of impacts our harvest seasons are having. But then we're also going to do some fine tweaking to both our habitat models and our population models. And those are the models we use to help make management recommendations on an annual basis.
Let's move on to another species of furbearer. Coyotes have been in the conversation for a long time now, both with hunters and with landowners.
Yeah, we have a good population of coyotes in North Dakota. This year is no exception. The population has been trending upward for at least the last decade. They're pretty much found everywhere in North Dakota and widespread. And that has some repercussions sometimes with coyotes. One thing we're seeing this year that people have been concerned about for several years is we have some outbreaks of lice going on in coyotes, and it's devaluing their pelts, and so it's causing matted hair and hair loss between the back, the shoulder blades, and the neck. And this is a species of canine lice. It's pretty common with domestic dogs and other wild canine species like wolves and coyotes and fox. And so while it's not unusual for coyotes to get canine lice, it is unfortunate that it's devaluing the pelts. So while we have such good numbers of coyotes in the state, and the fur prices for coyotes are pretty decent right now, if you run across any of those coyotes with that lice, they're pretty much worthless. So that is unfortunate.
I don't recall how long ago it was, but I know we had a major league outbreak of sarcoptic mange, which devastates the populations. Any sign of that lately?
We always have sarcoptic mange in the state, and it's not to be confused with the lice. The lice is different. The sarcoptic mange creates extreme itching in coyotes. They scratch themselves. They become immune compromised. So essentially they just become secondary illness because they spend all their time just laying around scratching themselves when they have mange. And mange is, in that case, usually will kill coyotes, especially in extreme winters, like a cold winter like we're having right now. So they just get exposure to the elements and things like that, and they can't survive. Whereas this lice we're seeing now is not killing the coyotes, it's not making them freeze, it's not causing extreme itching and things like that. So it's a little bit different, but both mange and lice are two diseases that we call density-dependent diseases. And so that means that they're indicators of high populations. Yep, and so we always have sarcoptic mange in the state. It flares up from time to time in little pockets around the state. But we've never seen it completely disappear from the state.
Several years ago, our department and the Department of Agriculture teamed to provide a useful tool for landowners that wanted to keep their coyote populations in check, and also hunters, the Coyote Catalog. Tell me more about that.
Yes, this is the third year that we've been working with the Department of Agriculture on the Coyote Catalog, which we named. And this isn't the first time the state has tried this. A couple decades ago, they tried a similar program for a few years. But we're going to give it another go around this time. And what it's doing is it's lining up coyote hunters with landowners who are willing to allow coyote hunting on their property and or trapping. And so there's landowners and livestock producers who are uncomfortable with the number of coyotes they're seeing on their property. But they never have anybody stop by and ask to hunt there and things like that. And so this is just a way to get those two groups of people together and hopefully remove some coyotes from areas where the landowners are uncomfortable with the numbers they're seeing.
Who can they talk to if they want to register for the Coyote Catalog?
If they're a landowner, they should contact the Department of Agriculture or go to their website, the Department of Agriculture, and sign up as a landowner willing to host hunters on his property, his or her property. If they're a hunter, they go to our website, or they can contact myself, and we can get them signed up on our website as a willing hunter, and they just indicate the areas of the state they're willing to hunt in, and then if any landowners sign up in that area, we can put them in touch with each other.
It seems like it wasn't too long ago that everybody was trapping muskrats during the winter. They were plentiful, everybody was out after them. Now not so much.
Yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a perfect storm when it came to muskrats. We had a really high population numbers, we had good pelt prices, and we had really great trapping conditions throughout the winter. And we had high muskrat harvest. And since then, the population has gone down. The fur prices
Is that normal?
It is normal. It is normal with muskrats in the northern range. The northern extent of their species range in the northern states and in Canada, they do cycle. And here in North Dakota, we see about a 10-11 year cycle for muskrats. And so while we're not surprised that the muskrat numbers are down right now, we'll just have to wait and see if they come back up while the pelt prices are still pretty decent.
Another species that's drawn a lot of interest over the last, I guess, 4 years now is the experimental fisher season that we put on.
Yes, you're right, Tom. 4 years ago, we opened a trapping-only season on fishers, pretty limited season. At first, we started with a quota and a bag limit of 1 fisher per trapper, and it's only in the eastern third of the state approximately, so Highway 281 and east of there over to the state line. And we had 2 years of quota, and then we got an idea, gave us a good idea of how many fishers were going to be taken per day and things like that. So we decided to move away from the quota, the season quota, and just move into a short season and limit the amount of take based on season length. So we have a 1 week, 7-day season, 1 fisher per person, again, trapping only. And it started this year right after deer gun season closes. So a lot of our Furbearer seasons start right after deer gun season closes, our late season snaring, our hound seasons, our fisher season. And it started then. We had about 35 to 40 fishers taken this year, which is very similar to last year. And so far the season seems to be well received by the trappers out there. And it's a pretty small, limited population, but they are enjoying that limited take they're being offered.
It'll be a while before any proclamations are signed for the 2015 seasons. Do you anticipate any changes?
Well, it just depends. You know, we haven't wrapped up any analysis from the results of the hunting seasons and trapping seasons this year. And so once we analyze that data, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some recommendations that come down to maybe lower the mountain lion quota or change some of the season structure in other seasons, but I don't anticipate any super big changes this year coming. Big change we had this year that a lot of trappers are familiar with is that we required cable device users to register. And so what that means is if you were gonna go out and set cable devices or snares, a lot of people call them snares, you had to first go on our website and register and essentially just give us your name, address, and then we kick back a registration number for you that you had to write on your license. Okay, it's very similar to spearfishing. So if anybody in the States has to register as a spearfisherman, very similar to that. And what we intend to do with that mailing address is send out to all the cable device users in the States some information on how to be responsible with cable devices, how to reduce non-target take and things like that, because they're a really valuable, important tool for late winter fur harvest here in North Dakota, and we want to protect that tool, but we want to do some volunteer education at the same time.
All right, Steph, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
If you're interested in signing up for the Coyote catalog that Steph mentioned earlier, here is how. Landowners have to sign up at the Department of Agriculture website. Here is that address, www.ndda/coyote-catalog. Hunters and trappers will need to sign up on the Game and Fish website. The address there is gf.nd.gov. Then click on the Hunting Trapping header at the top of the page. Then either click on the Furbearers on the side or scroll down to the Furbearers page. There you'll find Coyote listed. You need to fill out the contact form and submit it, and hopefully you'll be matched with a landowner in your area that's looking for coyote control. For Stephanie Tucker and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you again next week.